Hello and welcome, I am MotoristX and welcome to an edition of Lore Wheel Drive, where I talk about niche automotive lore, history, and subjects of the like. Today, I'll be sharing with you a brief history over Seat Cupra, and later on, we'll take a look at some of the greatest examples that have stemmed from this nameplate. But before we dive into any of that though, I'd recommend subscribing to my channel if you'd like to learn more about special automotive operations and automotive topics like this in general. I make content for all different types of car enthusiasts, but with this series in particular, this is for all my history buffs, spec nerds, and taxonomy masters. Essentially, if you love to classify different cars and understand the history behind so many different nameplates, Lore Wheel Drive is going to be a series for you. Now, having said all that, let's talk about Seat Cupra. Seat Cupra, or just Cupra, is a brand of Spanish sports cars. Originally, the Cupra name was used to refer to only just sports car trims of various Seat models, but in 2018, Seat made Cupra an independent brand for their top range of sports cars. At this point, Cupra may seem like a self-explanatory name, but to fully understand what it means, let's go back to 1971. This year would be the year where Seat developed their in-house motorsports team and tuner, Seat Special Vehicles, also known as SSV. From 1971 onwards to 1984, this group raced modified versions of Seat cars across numerous rally stages, as well as some touring car competitions. Most of these cars were classified within FIA's Group 2 and Group 5 level of race cars, so naturally they rival the likes of Ford Escorts, BMW 3 Series, and Audi Coupes. Skip forward to 1985 and the team transitioned into Seat Sport. This newly reorganized group would continue doing what SSV did, but they would set their sights on larger accomplishments. During the next few decades, from the 1990s to the 2010s, they achieved various feats such as acquiring consecutive manufacturer titles in the World Rally Championship, a few podium finishes within the World Touring Car Championship, and also they had developed and entered their own electric race cars into the likes of the new e-Touring Car Cup as well as Extreme E. It was within this period that Seat had definitely solidified their name within the world of motorsports, and they also gave Spain international recognition amongst car enthusiasts for being yet another country that produces potent sports cars. Skip ahead one more time to 2018 and Seat made another big decision. This year would be the year where they launched the Cupra brand independent from their own mainline lineup. As mentioned before, Seat would use the Cupra name as a trim level of certain models they produce, and they had done that ever since 1996 with the Ibiza GTI Cupra, but now Seat had decided to finally place all their new Cupra cars into one new brand to give them more recognition. It's also worth noting with this transition came another transition, that transition being Seat Sport turning into Cupra Racing, where they now race Seat Leons in the World Touring Car Cup as well as the e-Touring Car Cup as well. And if you ask me, all this transitioning was appropriate because it gives the Cupra cars a clean slate to start off with, especially since we're entering the age of electric performance. Now, up until this point, I've given you a brief history over the Seat Cupra brand, but in a little bit, we're actually going to take a look at some of the greatest cars that have helped define what Seat performance is all about, as well as giving Spain credibility when it comes to making sports cars. I will say that some of the cars in this gallery are legitimate Cupras, whereas others are cars that help pave the way for them. Before we dive into any of that though, let me clarify a couple of things. Number one, cars are only going to be named by their year, company, model, and trim level. I'm not using any generational codes, chassis codes, or sub-trim level names. Number two, some cars in the video might have multiple engine options available, but for the sake of this video, I only chose the specs for the option that either was the most popular or had the most info on it. Number 3, some cars might have figures that just weren't publicly attainable, so for some of these cars, you'll see that in their data slots, it'll indicate that the data just wasn't acquirable. Number 4, few of the specs in this video might not also be 100% accurate. So for these metrics, I guessed them by making some educated guesses, comparing the car in question to how well it might do in comparison to cars of its similar class and similar era. And number 5, taking into consideration the previous 4 points, I want you to know that I have done my best to provide you with both accurate and precise information for the cars you will see in the gallery. Now that I have given you a brief history over Seat Cupra, and now that I have addressed the side notes for the gallery, let us finally dive into the Spanish leyendas y héroes known as Cupra. So guys, if you liked what you saw, go ahead and leave a like and consider subscribing to see more content like this. If you want to see me do this with another car brand, model, or type, comment down below which brand, model, or type you want to see me cover next. Again, I am MotoristX, and this was an edition of Lore Wheel Drive.